A grand school looms over a playground, a dozen figures scattered about. Suddenly, there's a deafening explosion, engulfing the air in flames and smoke. Propelled by the blast, a figure crashes to the ground, skidding away with a whimper of pain. A group of students approach the fallen figure, mocking him for being hit by elementary magic. Soot stains part of the fallen victim's face as he struggles to rise, his expression twisted in agony. Despite his difficulty standing upright, the victim clothes emit black smoke as he demands if this isn't sufficient. He then implores the lead bully to honor their agreement, insisting he brought what was requested. The bully, burger bag clutched, declares at the exclusive school lunch, 50 daily servings only, claiming he's brought enough for all. Scoffing at the bag, one questions the missing drinks, while the lead bully barks at the victim's lack of consideration. Fireball in hand, the bully declares punishment, another serving, and unleashes a burning blast at the victim. The injured victim kneels in pain, while the bully jeers at his weakness. Suddenly, Shinonome from discipline appears, questioning the bullies who scatter in fear. Fleeing, the lead bully flings a final insult, a phone hurled at the victim's face, shattering on impact. Phone shattered, despairing Haruto reaches for the pieces as Shinonome rushes to him. Concern creasing her face, Shinonome checks on Haruto, but he rebuffs her, warning her to stay out. Despite Haruto's dismissal, Shinonome remains undeterred. Glaring resentfully, Haruto declares their childhood bond broken by this place, and storms off. Shinonome's expression reflects concern as she watches Haruto's retreating figure. The midday sun casts a bright blue sky with scattered white clouds overhead. Entering the corridors, Haruto faces whispers. Students question his magic, or lack thereof, and wonder how he got into this elite school. Whispers morph into rumors, questioning whether there are faulty exams or a cheating scheme at play. Amidst the gossip, Haruto struggles with the urge to refute the accusations. Self-doubt plagues Haruto, questioning his place in the prestigious school. Memories resurface of his unexpected admission as a special student, fueling Haruto's unanswered questions. Despite his curiosity, he admits to never having confronted his parents, feeling it's now too late. Despondent and alone, Haruto stares out the window, yearning to join his dead parents. Even magicless, Haruto faces a dreamless future in the mage course. Due to his lack of magic, he was compelled to train as a swordsman. In a society dominated by magic, Haruto considers himself worthless as a melee fighter. Sole survivor of his family and raid liability, Haruto's peers have a new name for him. Many refer to him as the God of Plagues. After returning home from school, Haruto approaches his apartment door. Upon reaching the door, he notices a letter stuck to it. Seated on the sofa, he examines the letter, holding it in his hand. He observes the lack of a stamp or sender's name on the envelope. Feeling a hint of nervousness, he decides to open it, breaking the wax seal. As he unfolds the letter, a brilliant blue light floods the room, casting an ethereal glow over his face. To his astonishment, the letter begins to draw in the surrounding air, resembling a miniature black hole. In a flash, Haruto finds himself trapped inside the sealed letter that lands on the sofa. Disoriented, Haruto opens his eyes to a strange world bathed in starlight. Confusion sets in as he stands in a pool of bright blue liquid. Startled by a ripple in the water, Haruto watches in bewilderment as a smoky figure emerges. A face forms from the smoke, announcing the year 2054 and demanding Haruto's identity. Taken aback by the entity's acknowledgement, Haruto stammers his name. The mist being introduces itself as a future Haruto. Utter bewilderment washes over Haruto's face. Future Haruto explains it's sending a letter from the future. He reveals present Haruto will gain time manipulation in 10 years. Eager to begin, future Haruto offers immediate space-time training. Haruto doubts the smoky figure's claims of being his future self. Undeterred, future Haruto mentions details only Haruto would know. The future self pleads for present Haruto's trust and asks him to follow his instructions. He instructs Haruto to conquer the F-rank dungeon alone, promising to talk after. As dusk falls, Haruto enters the cleared F-rank dungeon, following his future self's orders. Clutching the envelope, Haruto can't shake the feeling it's all a prank. His future self responds from within the envelope, suggesting he can burn it if it proves to be a joke. Haruto's future self directs him to proceed straight and turn right at the dungeon's end. After a while, Haruto encounters a towering wall blocking his path. He decides to burn the envelope at the dead end, but is asked to slide it into the wall instead. With a sigh, Haruto obeys, pushing the envelope into a slit in the wall. Following this action, a glowing pattern emerges among the wall's bricks. After a brief moment, the walls part, unveiling a massive opening resembling an archway. As he walks into the darkness, Haruto is astonished by the hidden passage concealed within the wall. And suddenly, darkness shatters to light, forcing Haruto to shield his eyes. Squinting through the fading light, Haruto spots a massive, chained crystal hovering on a strange platform. His future self reveals it's a skill cube and instructs him to approach and touch it to acquire a skill. Nervously, Haruto edges closer to the crystal, extending his hand, until finally, he touches it. As the crystal emits a vivid red glow, Haruto hastily withdraws his hand. The glow intensifies, causing cracks reminiscent of those in the wall to spread across the floor and walls. Haruto gazes upward and notices a dark cube through one of the newly formed holes. The cube plummets downward, pulling massive stone slabs from the surrounding walls. Surrounding the cube, the flying stone slabs and shapes converge, enveloping it completely. After a moment, hundreds of differently shaped stones begin to merge, forming a humanoid figure. Haruto stares in astonishment at the newly formed creature, obscured by the floating dust. A blinding dust cloud erupts, then settles to reveal a towering stone golem bathed in radiant light. Haruto exclaims in shock at the sight of the colossal golem. Without warning, Haruto is caught off guard as something attacks him, resulting in a small explosion. Haruto coughs blood, the attack's impact leaving him reeling in confusion. Collapsing, he questions if he's been deceived, feeling his body burning and consciousness slipping away. Haruto questions the harsh reality, fearing it might be the end for him. Flashbacks of family flood his mind, giving hope for a reunion. The voice from the envelope challenges Haruto, asking if he's ready to surrender. Mockingly, the voice predicts Haruto's meaningless demise, claiming he's been deceived. The voice taunts Haruto, questioning his acceptance of the situation, jolting him back to reality. Haruto acknowledges the bleakness of his life, resigned to its perpetual disappointment. He convinces himself that this is his fate, that nothing good awaits him. While he claims to have given up, there's a flicker of defiance in his eyes. With gritted teeth, he refuses to accept being scammed and facing a pointless demise. The voice urges Haruto to resist and fight for survival as the golem's massive arms loom over him. Motivated by the voice's encouragement, Haruto grabs the sword, determined to alter his fate. The golem's hand descends, crushing Haruto into oblivion, and darkness envelopes him. Suddenly, a system notification appears, stating that the requirement has been fulfilled. It announces the cancellation of Haruto's death and the rollback of his physical body. In a blinding flash, Haruto's determined gaze emerges as he vows to survive. Gradually, Haruto's entire body begins to reform, returning to its previous state. Upon resurrection, he exudes a lethal aura and gains mastery over space-time magic. The system displays the messages: Hidden Quest, the image of space and time, indomitable spirit. Subsequently, the message changes, announcing that the requirement has been met. The bright crystal, bound by chains, begins to crack. It shatters into hundreds of diamond-like shapes, sparkling as they fly in all directions. A bright white and blue light floods the entire room as the golem stares at this phenomenon. Among the radiant light, Haruto emerges, with a few sparks of lightning crackling around his body. Despite being smashed by the golem earlier, he appears in fine condition. System confirms Haruto acquired space-time magic. Space-time magic includes Quick Body, Material Rewind, Stop Chain. Haruto's puzzled by his new passive skill, Level 1 Potential Unleashing plus 30%. The voice apologizes for not disclosing harsh awakening requirements earlier. Future Haruto reveals space-time magic won't be discovered for another 10 years. Astounded, Haruto questions if the voice is truly from the future. Future Haruto's voice urges Haturo to focus as the golem prepares to strike. Haruto swiftly dodges the golem's surprise attack, leaping back just in time. Evading, Haruto senses his body feeling lighter, wondering if it's due to the passive skill. Future Haruto instructs Haruto on space-time mage combat, advising reliance on senses over sight. Haturo concentrates, feeling the flow of time, guided by the voice's teachings. Encouraged, Haruto continues to focus, reminded that both Harutos are the same. The golem launches another attack at Haruto, intending to crush him. Haruto closes his eyes, focusing on his senses to perceive the world's flow of time. As the golem approaches, Haruto opens his eyes, lightning crackling around his body. The golem swings its massive arms, but Haruto jumps back, narrowly evading. Activating his space-time magic, Haruto leaps down onto one of the golem's arms. Drawing his sword, he activates the level 1 quick body spell. With the spell's speed, he hurtles towards the golem's head at blinding speed. Ascending into the air directly above the golem's head, Haruto extends his sword. Gripping the sword tightly, he prepares to strike the golem's core. With force, he plunges the sword into the golem's head. This causes the cube inside the golem's body to shatter. Haruto drives the sword deeper into the golem's head, causing it to burst. He jumps off the golem and walks away as it crumbles into pieces. After defeating the golem, the system notifies Haruto of his level increase by 4, swordsman skill by 8, and acquisition of 45,800 credits. After this, future Haruto asks if Haruto believes him, addressing him as the god of plagues. Haruto ponders for a moment, tightening his grip on his sword. Then, holding up the envelope and staring at it, he states that he trusts his future self somewhat. Following that, his future self directs Haruto to take the next crucial step and leave the dungeon first. Haruto makes his way out of the dungeon, questioning if there's still something left to do. Future Haruto tells Haruto to detour to where Shinano will be attacked. Haruto halts, absorbing his future self's words, then stares at the envelope, asking for clarification. His future self replies that he is referring to Haruto's childhood friend, Shinonome. He explains Shinonome will meet her demise by the boss monster in the Ikebukuro D-rank dungeon. Hearing this, Haruto's expression shifts to shock, visibly shaken by the unsettling news. Hearing Shinonome's in danger, Haturo races to the D-rank dungeon to save her. Future Self says Shinonome dies on May 23rd, to a surprise C-rank boss in the D-rank dungeon. Shinonome's party tries a rescue spell, but without backup, they all die. Annoyed, Haturo yells at his future self to stop talking as he runs. Haturo reaches the Ikebukuro D-rank dungeon, out of breath. Winded, Haturo asks why his future self didn't warn him sooner. Future Self says Haturo avoids others fearing he brings bad luck, questioning his sudden concern. Suddenly, Haturo confronts a group of goblins blocking his path. Drawing his lightning-crackling sword, Haruto prepares to engage the goblins in combat. The goblins charge, and annoyed, Haruto slices off one of their arms, demanding silence from his future self. Determined, Haruto asserts his autonomy, focused solely on confronting the goblins ahead. Seeing Haruto's resolve, his future self smiles, preparing a space-time magic lesson. Meanwhile, at the dungeon's deepest floor, an explosion sends Shinonome flying. Shinonome's team looks on in concern as she crashes to the ground. All of them shout her name in worry as Shinonome lays defeated on the ground. Amidst the chaos, the C-rank extra boss, Dark Sentinel, enters, clad in armor and wielding a sword. Shinonome's party is shocked by the C-rank boss, realizing their rescue spell is futile. Wielding a staff, a woman urges the group to stay calm and work together against the boss. A terrified-looking guy cries out that he can't do it and doesn't want to die. The boss raises his massive sword, dark energy engulfing it, and launches an attack at the group. He brings down his sword, slicing up all the members of the group, one by one. Finally, Shinonome manages to stand up, still hurt by the attack, and looks around. To her horror, she sees the awful sight of all her companions lying injured. One of the members still moving calls out for Shinonome to help her. Suddenly, the boss notices Shinonome and turns towards her to finish her off as well. However, Shinonome, enraged, raises her staff and launches a huge fireball. The fireball strikes the boss's head but does no damage to him. Terrified, Shinonome watches the enraged boss raise his sword for another blow. The boss is just about to strike Shinonome as she cries out for help. Haturo arrives, utilizing space-time magic to neutralize the boss's attack and save Shinonome. He then looks down at Shinonome, who has her eyes closed in fear, and checks if she's alright. Shinonome, hearing Haturo's voice, opens her eyes and is astonished to see him there. Haturo then turns towards the boss and instructs Shinonome to stay back. The boss gazes down at Haturo, who stares back and reaches for his sword. As the boss's sword slams into the ground, Haturo jumps away, narrowly dodging the strike. Haturo lands a few feet away from the boss without hesitation. Boss lunges again, but Haturo parries the blow with his own sword. Haturo strikes back, but the boss's armor deflects the blow. The boss swings his sword once more at Haturo, who retaliates in kind. Their swords clash, the boss is proving superior, shattering Haturo's into two pieces. Haturo is horrified to see his sword shattered. Red flames erupt from the enraged boss, making Haturo swear under his breath. The boss raises his other arm, dark energy gathering in his hand. He fires the energy at Haturo, causing a small explosion upon striking the ground. Using quick body, Haturo dodges the attack, reappearing behind the boss in a flash. Unable to pierce the boss's armor, Haturo looks to target the unprotected parts of his body instead. The only part not covered in armor is the boss's head, so Haturo makes it his target. Haturo disregards his future self's warning and attacks the boss with his broken sword. Activating space-time magic, Haturo employs material rewind to reverse the damage done to his sword. He strikes his sword into the head, which the boss is holding in his hands. The tip of his sword finds an opening in the head armor and pierces the flesh. This causes the boss to be defeated. Approaching Shinonome after defeating the boss, Haturo hears his future self declare that fate has been altered. Shinonome, sitting on the floor, stares up at Haturo with an amazed and confounded expression. Shinonome approaches Haruto, questioning the situation and surprised by his new powers. She demands him to explain to her, but she says she will thank him first for saving her and her friends and does thank him. Haturo fumbles with his hair, looking nervous, and tells Shinonome he doesn't mind it. Then he joins his hands and requests Shinonome to keep his powers a secret, startling her. Shinonome blushes, asking Haruto if it should be their secret. Puzzled by Shinonome's response, Haturo agrees to keep it between them. Shinonome smirks, questioning Haturo about his earlier display of strength, making him uneasy. Haturo recalls his future self's advice about minimizing branching futures and keeping space-time magic secret. Shinonome gives Haturo a deadly and suspicious look as he doesn't answer her question. Haturo stammers, finally asking Shinonome to keep whatever he tells her a top secret. Haturo, trying to reason, tells Shinonome that a lot is going on in his life and he doesn't want to stand out. Suddenly, Haturo's future self from the envelope advises him to deceive Shinonome with lies. Hearing the voice, Shinonome asks Haturo if he said something, but he denies it, claiming ignorance. Angered by the slip-up, Haturo realizes his future self spoke in front of Shinonome, arousing suspicion. Shinonome urges Haturo to continue explaining about his strength. Haturo concocts a tale about practicing an incomplete special swordsman skill, opting to keep it secret. The trick works and Shinonome buys this reasoning and says she understands, giving a smile. She promises secrecy, and Haturo sighs with relief at deceiving Shinonome. The next day, Haturo is currently at his school, the Adventurer Cultivation Agency. With his actions the day before, he was able to alter Shinonome's fate and prevent her death. At the same time, he also was able to obtain overwhelming magic and power. Haturo accepts he can't change the past but is eager to shape the future. Suddenly, someone calls Haturo the god of plagues. Turning, Haturo sees 3 smirking students. The bully in the middle among the 3 beckons Haturo closer. Then he mocks Haturo for fleeing the Ikebukuro dungeon. He laughs, saying the party trained with the extra boss in the Ikebukuro dungeon. Haturo tunes out the bullies, his mind snagged on the other Ikebukuro survivor the bully mentioned. The bully mentions his friend from the dungeon, hospitalized due to severe injuries. With a creepy smile, he asks Haturo to pay for his friend's hospital bills. Meanwhile, Haturo speaks nothing, his head bowed down in anger. The bully conjures a flame, warning Haturo to speak up or be their target for attack spell practice. Suddenly, Haturo shouts out loud in anger, saying he has had enough. The bullies are all taken aback by this new behavior from Haturo. Haturo then repeats his words and says he has had enough as he calls the bullies pieces of trash. This angers the bullies, and they get ready to attack Haturo. The bullies shout insults and attack Haturo together, hands raised to strike. Haturo stands firm, his heightened stats allowing him to foresee the bullies' actions clearly. Then he beats the crap out of all 3 of them, without breaking a sweat. The bullies lie on the ground, shocked by Haturo's newfound skills after being swiftly defeated by him. Then Haturo warns the bullies to never come near him ever again. He seems to be holding 3 money purses and a lighter in his hand. The bully says that those things Haturo is holding are theirs. Then Haturo lights the lighter and tells the bullies it's a promise between them and him. He gives a dark look and tells them never to mess with him again. The 3 bullies give a scared look and all stand there, speechless. Haturo walks away, sighing in hopes the bullies won't bother him again, and heads back to class. Haturo checks his timetable and realizes the next class is magic capacity measurement. The teacher announces they'll start by measuring students' magic capacities. Haturo is called up first for measurement. As he steps forward, Haturo ponders the change now that he possesses space-time magic. Haturo decides to test by infusing some space-time magic. He places his hand on a mirror-like object on the teacher's desk. The mirror glows bright blue, illuminating the classroom. The teacher gives a shocked look upon seeing this. Future Haruto splashes the thick pink liquid over Haruto's face, prompting him to ask what it is. Future Haruto explains that it's dragon incense, designed to lure the dragon by its smell. The dragon turns towards Haruto as Future Haruto instructs him to prepare for battle. The dragon fixates on Haruto and flies at him, Future Haruto urging him to run. Haruto swiftly turns and dashes away as the dragon closes in. In that moment, Haruto hears a familiar voice from the opposite direction asking if someone is okay. Turning his head while still running, Haruto spots Shinonome assisting a student. Future Haruto advises Haruto to flee to protect Shinonome and hide his abilities. With the quick body spell, Haruto speeds away, outpacing the dragon. Haruto finds himself far from the school, sprinting along the road with the dragon hot on his heels. After some time, Haruto reaches the city's train station. Surveying the area, Future Haruto notes the deserted train yard. He advises Haruto to leap over the fence and lure the dragon inside, which Haruto promptly does. Halting after leaping over the fence, Haruto asks Future Haruto about the dragon's traits. Future Haruto explains the dragon's dark element, potent breath, and miasma that inflicts debuffs. He adds the dragon's physical attack resistance, cautioning Haruto about its formidable nature. Future Haruto notes the dragon's low intelligence as it followed them after the essence. He remarks that the dragon incense cost about 500,000 credits but deems it worth the investment. Hearing the incense costs 500,000 credits, Haruto questions Future Haruto about its high price. Future Haruto admits taking money from Haruto's account, angering him. Pissed, Haruto demands why he meddled with his bank account and how he got the PIN number, but Future Haruto promises he will make the money back after defeating the dragon. He also mentions that defeating the dragon will yield a skill cube for a new space-time magic spell. Upon hearing this, Haruto's anger dissipates, and Future Haruto suggests focusing on the task at hand. He explains the Chaos Dragon hasn't matured yet, revealing its forthcoming weak point. Just before he can disclose the weak point, the dragon appears above them, ready to attack. Both Harutos jump back, narrowly avoiding the dragon's attack. As the dragon prepares to attack, Future Haruto warns present Haruto, who sarcastically thanks him. The dragon unleashes a powerful blast, which Haruto dodges, running away. Out of harm's way, Haruto turns back towards the dragon, exclaiming that he barely dodged the attack. However, he freezes in shock as he witnesses himself being struck by the dragon's attack. A massive explosion illuminates the surroundings, engulfing everything in flames. From above, the dragon gazes down as smoke fills the air. It raises its head, and something within its chest begins to glow. Beating its wings to hover above the ground, the dragon scans the surroundings below. Meanwhile, Haruto dashes away, noticing an outline of himself from half a second ago behind him. Future Haruto applauds as Haruto instinctively dodges the attack with space-time magic. Haruto jumps several feet into the air, aligning himself with the dragon hovering above. Spotting a glowing object within the dragon's chest, he recognizes it as the core. Without hesitation, he draws his sword. With swift precision, he strikes the sword into the core. Despite aiming for the dragon's chest, he feels no connection with his attack. Suddenly, the dragon's entire body transforms into a black, mist-like form. Astonished, Haruto gazes at the sight, muttering that there's no way. It becomes apparent that the dragon's body below its neck has evaporated into the miasma. Haruto questions his future self why he didn't mention the dragon's ability beforehand. Future Haruto explains the dragon's miasma transformation, advising Haruto to stay focused when attacking. Landing, Haruto reminds future Haruto to share important details beforehand next time. Future Haruto warns of the dragon's ability to summon a miasma legion of smaller dragons. The dragon shrieks, miasma swirling and birthing a legion of shadowy dragons. Worried, Haruto questions how the dragon can be just a juvenile as previously stated. The teacher is shocked to see the reactions mirrored by the mirror after Haruto touches it. A blinding wave of blue and white light fills the surroundings. After a moment, the mirror shatters, leaving the teacher perplexed. Even all the students are shocked by the condition of the mirror. Meanwhile, Haruto strokes his back hair, regretting putting extra magic into the mirror. He observes the changed expressions of his classmates and feels he's standing out unnecessarily. Among the shocked faces of the students, only Shinonome chuckles. After school, hallway whispers follow Haruto, buzzing about his unexplained magic feat on the measuring device. Haruto, overhearing the whispers, realizes they're different from what he's used to hearing. He finds the new comments about him more exhausting than he's used to. Walking home, someone suddenly calls out Haruto's name from behind. Hearing his name, Haruto turns to see who is calling him. Startled, he lays his eyes on the source of the call. Speechless, Haruto stares at the talking stuffed animal claiming to be someone. Dumbfounded, Haruto recognizes the talking stuffed animal's voice and questions future Haturo about the bizarre form. Future Haruto explains that using the space-time magic, he possessed the plushie at his house. Urging Haruto not to waste time, the future self mentions an emergency. He explains that the Chaos Dragon has appeared earlier than in his future timeline. Haruto, hearing this, asks about the Chaos Dragon. Future Haruto details the dragon's menace, citing its destruction of the Ariake Guild and heavy casualties. He categorizes the dragon as an alpha-type extermination target due to the casualties. Concluding his explanation, he states that all these events took place, at least in his future. Haruto looks shaken upon hearing this news. Future Haruto stresses the urgency of defeating the dragon, arriving earlier than expected. Haruto voices concern over potential catastrophes if they fail, which future Haruto acknowledges. Haruto suggests contacting the Adventurers Guild for assistance. Future Haruto abruptly ends the conversation, declaring time is up. A strong wind indicates the approach of something ominous. Haruto's eyes widen in horror as he sees the approaching Chaos Dragon, resembling a flying mountain. Haruto asks why the dragon isn't in a dungeon. Future Haruto explains it's a ferocious migrating species. The dragon flies past them. Haruto curses, deeply concerned about the potential heavy casualties if the dragon isn't stopped. Meanwhile, outside the school, students begin to head home after the day ends. Suddenly, a shadow looms overhead, catching some students' attention as they look up to see the dragon. Panic spreads as students question why the monster is there. The dragon, noticing the students below, lets out a deafening roar, causing them to scatter in fear. Amidst chaos, a girl commands students to prepare for battle and directs others to evacuate. The student council's mage security guards, led by that girl, stand ready with their staffs. They each produce magical circular discs above their heads. As the dragon nears the school, the guards maintain their discs above them, staffs raised high. The girl instructs the others not to let the dragon near the school grounds. Another large magical disc appears directly above the dragon. The disc emits a blinding flash of light followed by a massive explosion in the sky. The other guards marvel at the attack and praise the girl, acknowledging it was expected of her. Initially pleased with herself, the girl's expression turns to horror as she gazes at the sky once more. Unharmed, the dragon lets out a deafening roar. Bewildered, the guards watch as the dragon remains unaffected by the anti-dragon magic bullet. The dragon opens its huge mouth, conjuring a glowing ball within. It unleashes a laser-like beam of attack at the guards below. A massive explosion erupts, filling the air with fire and smoke. Haruto arrives to find all the guards defeated on the ground, shocked by the sight. Future Haruto says he expected it, but Haruto insists now isn't the time for such remarks. Future Haruto pours a slimy liquid over Haruto, who groans, taken aback, and asks what he's doing. Future Haruto explains it's dragon incense, a scent that lures dragons. He further elaborates that although the dragon is ferocious, it has low intelligence. Future Haruto tells Haruto that, by following the scent, the dragon will come after him. The dragon flies towards Haruto as Future Haruto urges him to do the impossible and defeat it. Future Haruto urges Haruto to demonstrate the might of a space-time mage to all. Haruto and Future Haruto agree that regular weapons won't suffice against the Chaos Dragon's toughness. Haruto questions the dragon's early appearance. Future Haruto attributes it to his timeline alterations. Future Haruto urges Haruto to take responsibility and defeat the dragon properly. Haruto sighs, wondering if everything is supposed to be his fault. Suddenly, the miasma dragons launch a surprise attack, startling Haruto. Reacting swiftly, he uses the quick body technique to dodge the explosion, leaping backward. A miasma dragon approaches Haruto while he's mid-air. His sword swings destroy the puppet dragons without them reverting to miasma. Future Haruto tells Haruto to disperse the miasma dragons and wait for the right moment to strike. Haruto lands on the ground and dismisses his future self's advice. Activating the quick body technique once more, he propels himself forward at blinding speed. He charges straight at the miasma dragons, using his sword to slice through them. His sword moves like lightning, swiftly cutting through every miasma dragon in his path. With his swordsmanship skills, he effortlessly turns countless miasma dragons to smoke. Exhausted yet triumphant, Haruto catches his breath as Future Haruto, impressed, notes his level up by 3. Wiping sweat, Haruto wonders if the Chaos Dragon is out of its tiny dragon puppets. Suddenly, the Chaos Dragon swoops down, jaws aglow with a deadly attack aimed at Haruto. Haruto narrowly avoids a colossal blast of fire as the Chaos Dragon looms over him. The beam strikes the ground, unleashing a massive explosion. Haruto, having dodged the attack, leans against one of the trains, visibly exhausted. However, the Chaos Dragon charges up another attack aimed at Haruto. Irritated and angry at being targeted again, Haruto runs away from his spot. Once more, the dragon's attack misses Haruto and strikes the train, causing another explosion. Haruto curses, realizing he's exhausted from battling smaller dragons. Nearing his limit, he decides to wait a few more minutes before fully engaging the Chaos Dragon, aiming for its core. The dragon notices Haruto and flies closer towards him. Haruto stares up at the dragon as Future Haruto warns that he won't be able to reach its weak spot. The dragon raises its head, extends its wings, hovering above the ground, fixing its gaze on Haruto. Haruto realizes another attack is imminent and curses in frustration, pondering his next move. Searching for something to use against the dragon, Haruto looks around. His gaze falls upon the train's first compartment. A sudden idea strikes him as he decides on his course of action. Future Haruto senses Haruto's plan, asking about his intentions amid the worsening situation. Next, Haruto snatches the talking plushie, declaring his future self joins the fight. With the plushie in hand, he leaps upwards and lands on the wire lines above. Holding the plushie, Haruto realizes he won't reach the dragon no matter how high he climbs. Extending his arm back, he gathers momentum and hurls the plushie with force. The plushie hurtles towards the dragon at high speed. Haruto swiftly employs space-time magic, summoning Stop Chain to bind the plushie. Haruto leaps onto the plushie as a stepping stone, using it to propel himself towards the dragon. The dragon attempts to transform into miasma, but Haruto intervenes, refusing to allow it. He directs the Stop Chain at the dragon, commanding the chains to strike every part of its body. Recognizing the Chaos Dragon's might, Haruto gambles on short-lived restraints, hoping the chains provide a crucial window. With his sword ready, he propels himself towards the dragon, aiming for its core. Bound by the Stop Chain, the dragon is unable to evade Haruto's final attack. Haruto drives his sword straight into the core of the Chaos Dragon. Cracks begin to form across the dragon's scales from the force of the attack. The Stop Chains start to fracture into pieces. Haruto grips his broken sword and advances through the dust. Triumphant, Haruto raises his head as the system announces his victory over the Chaos Dragon. Haturo and his future self both stare at the massive, lifeless Chaos Dragon sprawled on the ground. The system informs Haturo that he's leveled up by 15, boosting his swordsman skill by 28. It also awards Haturo with 872,300 credits in a material. It tells Haturo he can upgrade to Adventurer rank C and should head to the nearest guild. Future Haturo congratulates Haturo on his victory, saying he had expected it. After congratulating Haturo, Future Haturo demands an explanation for being used as a stepping stone. Haturo doesn't respond to the accusation as he is busy examining the system. The system churns out more messages. Space-time magic plus 20. New skill acquired. Material rewind LV2. The system barrage continues. Quick body LV2 unlocked. Passive gained. Potential unleashing LV2. plus 50%. Despite his annoyance, future Haturo lets it go, recognizing that Haturo prevented a catastrophe. He senses something and remarks that someone must have reported the incident. He says it will be bad for them if they get spotted there. Then he jumps on Haturo's shoulder and advises they leave, and Haturo agrees with him. Haturo jumps off the fence and leaves the place, accompanied by future Haturo in his plushy form. It's midnight, and Haturo has reached his apartment. Inside the living room, Haturo and the plushie are sitting on the sofa, Haturo eating something. Peeling the wrapper off a food bar, he questions future Haturo if he needs to eat in plushie form. Future Haturo, as a plushie, can't eat, advising Haturo to use common sense. Haturo quips that if people used common sense, a talking plushie would be even more absurd. As he's about to take a bite of the food bar, he suddenly remembers something. Standing up from the couch, he grabs a water bottle and fills a cup from the table. He places the cup in front of the family portraits, announcing to his dad, mom, and sister that he's home. The future Haturo observes this behavior, but Haturo tells him not to tease him about it. Future Haturo reassures Haturo that he won't tease him since they are the same person. As Haturo closes his eyes in respect, future Haturo ponders keeping Ria's secret for now. He decides to reveal it when Haturo becomes more skilled as a space-time mage. Haturo opens his eyes and recalls receiving weapon materials after defeating the Chaos Dragon. The system displays the Chaos Dragon Fawn material he obtained. Future Haturo reminds Haturo of his damaged sword, suggesting it's time for weapon synthesis. He proposes they take a day off from school to go do some weapon synthesis. The next day, at the Adventurers Guild, Haturo faces the towering guild, remembering the time when he was unworthy of entering it. Perched on Haturo's shoulder, future Haturo smirks, saying Haturo can enter the guild now, thanks to him. Haturo strides towards the guild doors, declaring they'll head straight home after their business. At the reception lobby, after a wait, the announcer calls number 23, and Haturo realizes it's his turn. He approaches the reception, and the receptionist asks his purpose for the visit. Haturo explains he finished a dungeon and wants his results checked, handing over his card. Despite his appearance, the receptionist politely smiles, assuming he must be a weak adventurer. She takes the adventurer card from Haturo to examine it. She places the card on the screen, which scans it and displays Haturo's stats. As the card beeps, a hand symbol appears on the other side of the screen. She instructs Haturo to place his hand on the screen to confirm his identity and view his results. Haturo complies and lays his hand over the panel. The lady swipes the screen, checks Haturo's stats, her expression shifting to shock. Discovering Haturo has gone from rank E to rank C in just a day, she deems it impossible. Her shock turns to concern as the terminal begins to behave strangely, suggesting a malfunction. Feeling the weight of the attention, Haturo worries about standing out and causing trouble. Deciding to act, he uses his magic to rewind the panel. Haturo tells the receptionist the system has authenticated his identity, who has turned the other way. She turns back to the screen, finding it working, but is surprised by Haturo's E rank. Haturo, pretending surprise, asks if something is wrong. The lady insists nothing is wrong as she hands the card back to Haturo. Still puzzled, nervously, Haturo thanks her and takes the card. Meanwhile, future Haturo realizes Haturo used rewind magic on the screen. He commends Haturo for his cleverness, and Haturo explains he did it to stay consistent. Haturo heads to the elevator, asking if they're up next, and future Haturo agrees, pushing him on. Entering the elevator, Haturo presses the button for their destination. After a while, the elevator doors open, and Haturo steps out. He recognizes the area, but tells future Haturo he can't enter unless they're rank A. Future Haturo reassures him not to worry about that. Suddenly, the future Haturo reverts from his plushy form back into a letter. Taken aback by the sudden change, Haturo picks up the letter. From inside the letter, future Haturo instructs Haturo to hold it up to the scanner. Haturo hesitates, noting the high security area, but future Haturo insists he proceed. Haturo complies and moves the letter towards the scanner. As the letter is scanned, the door begins to open, and Haturo worries about the unknown outcome. Haturo enters as future Haturo explains they'll synthesize a weapon fit for a space mage. Upon Haturo's entry, a voice in the room questions if there's a field trip planned. Seeing him, Haturo glances over to the corner where a guy is sitting, seemingly occupied with a system. Future Haturo, from within an envelope, clarifies, no field trip, just weapon synthesis. Upon hearing this, the guy pushes himself up from his chair and asks Haturo if he's an adventurer. Shirayama Tokumune, chief of the weapon synthesis lab, questions Haturo's adventurer rank, suspicious. In that moment, future Haruto suggests Haturo to reveal the Chaos Dragon Fang to Shirayama. Haturo presents the Chaos Dragon Fang, explaining its rarity, and asks for Shirayama's help. He emphasizes that the material is a rare item dropped by a formidable enemy. Shirayama adjusts his glasses and examines the Fang closely as Haturo holds it up. After inspecting the Fang, Shirayama concludes that it's a decent material. He inquires if the material is from something Haturo hunted, to which Haturo nods in agreement. Convinced that Haturo is genuine, Shiroyama agrees to assist him. Shiroyama then presses down on his watch, suggesting they commence. Abruptly, the floor of the room begins to part in two, startling Haturo. A platform rises, revealing Shiroyama's newest, top-of-the-line Japanese synthesizer, baffling Haturo. Shiroyama explains that it's based on cutting-edge otherworld research. Shiroyama tells Haturo the material he brought isn't recognized by the guild's database. Deciding to study the material, he lets Haturo use the device for free, telling him to call when done. Approaching the device, future Haturo offers to teach Haturo, who's never done synthesis before. Haturo notes that in his school, students can't learn synthesis unless they're rank B or above. Future Haturo begins explaining that synthesis is divided into 4 steps. The first step is choosing the base weapon for synthesis, which, for Haturo, is his damaged sword. The second step is choosing attributes to imbue the weapon, based on its rank. Since Haruto's sword is a rank F weapon, it has only one attribute slot. Step 3 involves choosing enhancement material, grouped as mineral or monster parts. Sometimes, 2 swords can be combined. For Step 3, the Chaos Ring will serve as material. Step 4 is final synthesis, where the weapon's readiness and forging time matter. These steps determine the weapon's strength. After future Haturo's explanation, Haturo nods in understanding. Then, future Haturo suggests they start the synthesis process right away. Haruto grabs his sword, stating it will be the base for synthesis. The device presents options for attributes and asks Haruto to choose the element he wants to imbue. Future Haturo instructs Haruto to choose the light element as his first choice, which Haruto does. The device presents a cylinder. Haruto realizes he needs to insert his strengthening material. He places the dragon's fawn onto the cylinder, and it automatically inserts itself into the device. Then, the system asks for the forging time, and future Haturo advises Haruto to choose 3 years. Puzzled, Haruto expresses concern that he can't wait 3 years. However, future Haturo insists he follows the instructions, so reluctantly, Haruto selects 3 years. The weapon synthesis begins, informing Haruto to anticipate completion in 3 years. The envelope slips from Haruto's pocket into the opening cylinder. A reaction occurs, bright lines appearing on the synthesis device, causing a disturbance. A flash of white and blue light fills the room. After a moment, the synthesis device announces completion. It reveals a chaos sword, long and bright, with attribute light rank A. Haruto holds the sword, surprised at its completion, as future Haruto mentions fatigue. At that moment, Chief Shiroyama enters, shocked at the rapid forging meant for 3 years. Shiroyama rushes to the system, bewildered. Future Haturo urges Haruto to leave, who agrees, storing the chaos sword. Haruto thanks Shiroyama, preparing to leave, but Shiroyama shouts for him to wait. Haruto exits the guild, noticing whispers among the people outside. In the conversation, it's mentioned that someone killed a ferocious migrating species instantly, alone. The speaker wonders who did it and expects clan conflict if the perpetrator is revealed. One person dreams of joining Momokasama's S-rank clan, but the other doubts it'll happen. Haruto, overhearing the rumors, looks worried and heads home immediately. But future Haturo suggests a sword test, prompting Haruto to ask where they would go. Future Haturo gives a smile and says they will go to the place where the sacred beast, Cerberus, is. Hearing the beast's name, Haruto's eyes widen in alarm. At that very moment, Shinonome comes running there, calling out for Haruto. Shinonome, her eyes tearing and looking relieved, says she is glad Haruto is still alive. She clutches her heart and shares that she was told the dragon targeted Haturo. Shinonome says she messaged Haturo but got no response, and noticed he didn't attend school. She looks worried, but instead of reassurance, Haturo queries her presence. Shinonome suggests returning the question and reveals her purpose, to delivering a rating application. Haruto agrees, citing Shinonome's high mage program ranking justifying her application. Future Haturo, in his plushie form, urges Haruto to wrap up the conversation with Shinonome quickly. Shinonome wipes her tears, giving a pleasant smile, and says she is really glad Haturo is okay. Haturo strokes his hair, apologizing to Shinonome for worrying her, while she wipes another tear. Shinonome notices the plushie on Haturo's shoulders and asks what it is. Without warning, Shinonome grabs the plushie off his shoulders, asking to take a better look at it. Shinonome then holds the plushie in her arms, saying it smells like Haturo and puts her at ease. She continues to hug it with a look of pleasure on her face, as Haruto suddenly gets an idea. He tells Shinonome she can keep the plushie. She asks if he means it, and Haturo confirms she can indeed have it. Happy and excited, Shinonome holds the plushie closer to her face, thanking Haturo. Haturo walks off, telling Shinonome not to mention it, relieved he diverted her attention. Shinonome waves goodbye, while future Haturo and the plushie calls not to be left behind. The next day at Haturo's high school, Haturo heads to the school, urging future Haturo not to get mad as he got him back right away. But the future Haturo gives a pissed look and says that's not the issue. He says that he got to see Shinonome, his childhood friend he lost 10 years once more. He then thanks Haturo for making that possible. Haturo says that's good for him. Meanwhile, a student at the school window sees Haturo approaching. He recognizes Haturo as the so-called god of plagues and deems him interesting. Then he gets off the window and into the room inside and considers to set Haturo as his next target. He hopes Haturo will entertain him as he calls him Mr. Mysterious Dragon Slayer. Meanwhile, Sakurakuji Yuzuki, the vice president of the student council, has summoned Haturo. She slams her hand on the desk, demanding of Haturo if he truly knows nothing about the dragon. Haturo, who is sitting on a chair, facing Sakurakuji, says he doesn't know anything clearly. She mentions hearing that during the school attack, witnesses saw the dragon flying after Haturo. Haturo nervously lies, saying the dragon targeted another student and implies they defeated it. Sakurakuji gives Haturo a suspicious look as she asks if he knows who defeated the dragon. Haturo shakes his head and denies, claiming he was too focused on trying to escape after all. At this response, Sakurakuji sighs as she pushes back her glasses and says she understands. Haturo rises, ready to leave, as Sakurakuji desperately tries to stop him. Outside in the corridor, Haturo walks away as he questions why he is being suspected. Future Haturo shows Haturo a video on his smartphone, hinting it might be relevant. The video of the railway station battle has gone viral, fueling speculation about the unknown fighter's identity. Seeing the video, Haturo considers using space-time magic to halt its spread. Future Haturo denies the possibility due to Haturo's current magic skills, disappointing him. Looking more tired and fed up, Haturo walks into the classroom, taking a long deep breath. Upon entering the classroom, he gets startled as everyone starts pointing at him upon seeing him. He realizes he is finally going to get exposed. As Shinano warns Haturo to be careful, a voice behind her interrupts, implying she needn't say more. All eyes shift to the new arrival, a white-haired guy in white robes entering the class. Then he gives a smile and announces he will be taking the class from then onwards. Introducing himself as the third-year student and student council president, he goes by Sumeragi Ryuga. He boasts of being the school's top magician, claiming the title of the strongest in the hierarchy. After that, he looks at Haturo and asks him if he is Kujyou Haruto, to which Haturo affirms. Then Sumeragi reveals to Haturo that he has come to him to request him in a magic duel.